This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1626, Previews!
Laser beams, opinions like the seasons on everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek, uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is...
I'm Brian Chrisman.
I'm Adam Murdo.
And I'm Chris Everly.
Comic Geek Speak.
And welcome to the show. This will be, as it usually is, this time of the month, our previews episode.
Hooray!
Yes, we are going to go through the October previews catalog for items mostly going to stores in December of this year. And as always, with our previews episodes, this episode is brought to you by the fine folks at Discount Comic Book Service, DCBService.com. You can go to for all of your pre-ordering needs. Whenever you pre-order from them, any DC, Marvel, Dark Horse, or Image book, right away they're 40% off cover price. Most other comic publishers are between 20 and 35% off cover price. They do have certain specials, whether it be issues or bundles for 45, 50, 60, even up to 75% off cover price. And the 50% off all new hardcovers and trades from DC and Marvel is an ongoing thing again. They've got bundles for Rebirth, for Young Animal, for Marvel Now, for a lot of other things. We'll go through the specials during the catalog. They can get your book shipped to you weekly, twice monthly, bags and boards. It's great. We love them. We've been with them for quite a while. So check them out. Discount Comic Book Service, DCBService.com. All right. And as we record this, we are, I guess, exactly 3 weeks away from Halloween. But just before Halloween, Chris, what do you have in store for us? No pun intended at Wild Pig Comics.
Fine pun. Thank you, brother. We'll be holding our annual fall sale, which takes place always during the Halloween Comic Fest, which, as most listeners know, is essentially Free Comic Book Day Part 2 of the year. We'll be running the sale from 12 noon to 6 p.m.
And the day again, sir, is?
October 29th, that's Saturday.
Yes.
And we're already stocking up heavily. For that event, we'll be having 25% off all of our back issues. That includes our 30,000 50-cent comics. As we speak, I'm perpetually adding books to those bins, including a lot of Bronze Age. So that's 25% off 50 cents. 25% off our sticker back issues, which are higher-end back issues that are still priced well below guide. 25% off our new and used trades. 25% off Toon Tumblers, pop figures, games. We're going to have a lot of clearance items out and even greater discount. And, of course, at approximately 3 p.m., we'll be holding our auction with low minimum bids. Now, to tantalize you here, Pansy.
I'm listening.
Here are a few of the items we're going to have, and I'm still compiling a few things. This is not a complete list, but I'll update that as we move along. We're going to have the Al Williamson Complete Empire Strikes Back Artist Edition from IDW.
Oh.
We will have the Bill Sienkiewicz New Mutants Artist Edition.
Ooh.
We will have the the late, great Yvonne Craig Batgirl bust.
Oh.
A Bruce Timm designed Wonder Woman statue. Frankly, I forgot which iteration, but it's the latest Harley Quinn statue released by DC where she's in her classic costume.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it in front of me, I don't remember which because they've done so many of them, but it's a great statue. In terms of back issues, Pantaloons,
I'm listening.
we're going to have Superman 199.
Oh, the Flash Superman race.
Yep, in VF condition. And unfortunately, I forgot the number. It's not in front of me. It's at the store. But a 10-cent cover Action Comics.
Ooh.
It's in the 200s, Pants.
Uh-huh.
It's on the cover. Superman is meeting like another version of himself, and there's like a rocket ship. I'll get the number for the next episode we're on.
Yes, you will.
That's in VGF. And there might be a few other things that pop up between now and then, but that's our auction list as of right now. So,
Excellent.
and I just bought a couple long boxes just stuffed with sort of better grade silver and bronze that are all going to be priced way below guide. I also got picked up, which will be on sale at the sale, the first Silver Age appearance of the Cheetah in Wonder Woman, and the second appearance of the Penguin in the Silver Age.
Ooh, wow.
So we're going to have some serious stuff there.
Excellent.
So I encourage, many listeners in the area have come to the store, which we always appreciate. We love meeting new listeners. And by the way, I meant to thank, I just totally brain farted his last name. I apologize. Dan, who sent us some wonderful DVDs, In Search of Steve Ditko, which is a classic, and another documentary on the history of comics and the artists of comics. So thank you so much for that. It's another example of just how wonderful some of the listeners are when they come to visit the shop. And to piggyback on that point, if you live anywhere within a reasonable driving distance, please, and I'm not saying this is not hyperbole, do yourself a favor, come to the store. Pants is going to be there. Murr's going to be there. Possibly Shane. I'm certainly going to be there. Danielle's probably going to be there at some point. Bill's going to be there. If you love back issues and just a real old-school comic book vibe, you've got to come to Wild Pig Comics. I'm proud to say we don't disappoint our customers when it comes to these events. I really, put a lot of effort into compiling just a great selection of back issues and trade paperbacks for our customers. And the auction is always a lot of fun. So we hope to see as many listeners there as possible, because I always love to meet listeners of the show. So that's 14 South Michigan Avenue, Kenilworth, New Jersey. Saturday, October 29th from noon to 6 p.m. Auction at approximately 3 p.m. Hope to see you there.
Yeah, and check out the website, wildpigcomics.com, for any last-minute additions.
Thank you, brother.
And one more quick announcement. Just came down today as you're recording this. The London Super Comic Convention has announced their 2017 dates. It's going to be held Friday, Saturday, and that's right, a 3-day show, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, August 25th, the 26th, and 27th of 2017 at the Business Design Center in Islington. Well, it says here Angel Islington. I'm not familiar with the geography, but so just announced today. That's all the information we really have for you right now. But a 3-day event in London. I believe this is like in the center-ish of London, if I've been told correctly. Anyway, more information to follow, but check out their website, LondonSuperComicConvention.com, for all the information on your tickets as well as guests. All right, well, let's jump right into the previews catalog.
Yes. All that fun stuff shipping for the holidays.
That's right. Absolutely, yes. And I will pop in with any special discounts from DCBS as we come across them.
We depend on that.
Thanks, Honey Poo. That's greatly appreciated.
All right. Up first, I guess, will be Dark Horse.
Indeed. Well, if you're a Legend of Zelda fan, on page 42, the Art and Artifacts Legend of Zelda the hardcover. Never played the game in my life, but I know it's popular among many video game enthusiasts. That may pique some people's interest.
Now, Adam, did you see page 54?
Yeah, but I guessed what you were driving at before I even flipped there. Yep. Collection of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe newspaper comics. Apparently.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Bert. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it was meant to be something that bridged the gap between the storylines and the continuity of the earlier animated series and the new adventures of He-Man. It apparently was pretty limited circulation. Not very many people got to see these strips, but here they are in a handsome, nearly 500-page collection.
Until I read this solicitation, I had no idea there was a He-Man newspaper strip.
I was right there with you.
And it ran for 4 years. And I forgot there was a second even He-Man cartoon.
Yeah, kind of think of it, that escaped my attention, too. I'd kind of moved beyond He-Man by the time I got to second grade, I think.
Now, Murr, the first He-Man cartoon, did that have a continuity to it, or not really?
Of a sort, especially when She-Ra was introduced as the spin-off, so that there was kind of a cross-continuity at that point, a cohesive universe, if you will, linking the two.
I gotcha. Oh, they've even got Orko here. Wow, look at that. Fantastic. I was going to jump back to, let's see here. Page 47, Dead Inside. I've enjoyed John Arcuti's work in the past. The Jail Crimes Division of the Sheriff's Office in Mariposa County investigates crimes committed inside county jails. With a limited number of suspects who can't escape, there's usually easy cases to solve, but not this one. As Detective Linda Caruso gets closer to the heart of the case, she discovers uncomfortable truths about her friends, her job, and herself. Sounds like my kind of story.
On page 52, if you're a fan of the How to Train Your Dragon movies, there is a trade paperback entitled The Serpent's Heir here, with some original stories based around that fantasy series of films. And if you happen to be a fan of that franchise, the artwork here looks really nice.
I want to mention on page 57 two of Dark Horse's top titles right now, both that I'm devouring. First of all, Black Hammer by Jeff Lemire, Dean Ormston, and Dave Stewart. I've caught up. I read the first 3 issues. Are you guys reading this book?
The Black Hammer?
Yeah.
Yes, I am reading Black Hammer. I'm not reading Briggs Land, but I'm reading.
Well, I'm glad you are, Murray, because Black Hammer I just think is right up your alley, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. This edgy take on Golden Age heroes sort of caught in this exile. And Briggs Land is just tremendous. I've read the first 2 issues. It's just Brian Wood, once again, tackling yet another sort of story genre and making it work in comics. A sort of a secessionist family living in their own compound in upstate New York, and sort of the Shakespearean power dynamics between the members of the family. I've just devoured the first 2 issues, and every month this book comes out, it'll be the first title I read without question.
On page 62, this month's issue of the Dark Horse Presents ongoing anthology sees the return of our friend Francesco Francavilla to comics. It's a short story featuring his pulp vigilante character, the Black Beetle.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Yeah, so that's it's celebrating 10 years of Francesco in comics. He's known primarily as a cover artist over the last few years. He's done some things for Archie and the Afterlife with Archie series. But now he's coming back to this creator-owned character of his in what I believe is a self-contained story called Karabocek. And, I enjoyed the first Black Beetle miniseries. Unfortunately, the second Black Beetle miniseries never finished. So here's your chance to get another shot of that character if you liked what you saw of it from Dark Horse in years past. He's
a great artist. I love his work. I want to jump back to page 60. They're doing an adaptation of Moby Dick. Think back to the old Classics Illustrated, for example. 256 pages, black and white, art by I'm going to butcher this, Christophe Chabut. I'm sure I butchered that. I apologize. Did you guys ever read the Classics Illustrated when you were growing up?
They were always around. I never.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever really read them, though. No.
Yeah.
I read the actual book. I never read a comics adaptation.
Yeah, I've read Moby Dick, but I have to read it again because I was really young when I read it. But when I was a kid, my uncle left his Classics Illustrated comics from the 1950s in my grandparents' basement, and I got my hands on all of them. I still have a lot of them. They were already pretty beat up, but that was what a treat it was to just lose myself in adaptations like All Quiet on the Western Front and Tale of Two Cities, so forth. And, I went on to read a lot of these books in their literary versions, but that was a wonderful gateway to a lot of those classic stories. One other thing I want to point out on page 70, I just read the first issue of Tarzan and the Planet of the Apes, written by Tim Seeley, David Walker, and art by Fernando Dagnino. The first issue was really fun. If you're a Planet of the Apes fan / Tarzan fan, definitely check it out. They even tie it into the sort of the first 3 original Planet of the Apes movies. Very, very captivating opening issue. So I'm looking forward to that story continuing. And page 71, this is an EC archive I've never seen before, the Valor hardcover. It looks like it focuses on EC's combat stories from world history, medieval, and so forth. So that looks interesting. All right, let's move on to DC.
All right.
On page 78 here, Justice League versus Suicide Squad crossover event.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I didn't mean to yawn at that moment. I apologize.
Yeah, well, the art is by Jason Fabok, so at least it'll look pretty.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just don't have a lot of interest in this kind of stuff. I don't blame them. They're trying to make their money wherever they can, so they're cashing in on properties that are more in the limelight, but not really floating my boat. What do you guys think about that?
Wasn't planning to buy it. Let's leave it at that.
And that says it all. But on page 80, Murd, a DC Rebirth holiday special.
Mm-hmm. Yep, with it's 96 pages of comics content produced by some known creators, including our friend V. Ken Marion, whom we saw at the New York Con just this past weekend. He's drawing the Green Lantern story in the one-shot. The only thing that's kind of staying my hand from buying this outright is the $9.99 cover price. I'm assuming DCBService.com will shave a little bit off the top of that, though.
How about half off at only $4.99?
Outstanding. I think I can afford that.
There you go.
Page 83, I want to comment on just how thoroughly enjoyable Aquaman has been. The Aquaman Rebirth, helmed by Dan Abnett. Very captivating image here of the fallen Statue of Liberty. Abnett's really exploring Black Manta's hatred for Arthur, and how he's now sort of making his ultimate play to not only destroy Aquaman personally, but his entire world as well by manipulating Atlantis into a war with the United States. It's outstanding. So I highly recommend that book. I just want to point out again on page 86 how much I'm enjoying Batgirl and the Birds of Prey. Again, the art is wonderful. They've captured the tone of the characters, their interactions, the way they again interact with each other, their sort of their voices. Thoroughly enjoyable book. Well, definitely one of the stronger Rebirth titles I've read.
I see a new story arc beginning on page 100 that looks interesting. It's part of the Nightwing Rebirth series. It was written by Tim Seeley, and I see he's been joined by Marcus Toe as the artist. Yeah, and I like some of the pencils I've seen by Marcus Toe on the old Red Robin series and elsewhere. Nightwing finds his way back to Bloodhaven in the post-Flashpoint continuity, and he goes up against a crew of former Bat villains who have apparently been run out of town by Batman and his lieutenants, and they've set up shop in Bloodhaven. So I'm interested to see what crew of D-listers Seeley and Toe scrape together for this story. That's so because Dick Grayson gets back to Bloodhaven, and there's going to be a bunch of obscure Bat villains. That seems like something I'd like to try to read. Plus Marcus Toe artwork, which I've already said I like.
Well, I like the image of his work they have here. Nightwing. I've read the Rebirth, and then I read issue 1. I enjoyed them both, but I got to catch up on that. Tim Seeley's a very strong writer.
Well, let's see on page 103, Superman numbers 12 and 13. Superman meets the Grant Morrison-created Seven Soldiers version of Frankenstein's monster and his bride. So, Superman and Frankenstein. It's a good DC Comics Presents quality team-up.
Good reference, my friend. God, DC Comics Presents was great.
It certainly was.
And it's tough to find back issues. I always try to find back issues of that for my bins, and they don't pop up as often as I'd like. Good series.
Yeah, glad I've completed my run if they're starting to become hard to find.
Page 108, again, I want to comment on what a wonderful job Greg Rucka is doing on Wonder Woman. He's returned to the character he already made a great impression on in the previous decade. And he's alternating between a sort of a retelling of Wonder Woman Year One and a story taking place in the modern continuity. Thoroughly enjoyable.
From pages 110 to 113, we have this month's selections from the DC's Young Animal. And as a bundle, you can buy them through DCBS all at half off the cover price. That's Cave Carson has a Cybernetic Eye number 3, Doom Patrol number 4, Mother Panic number 2, and Shade the Changing Girl number 3.
Oh, those DCBS bundles.
Yeah.
Where would we be without them?
Well, on page 115 is our first off-the-rack pick. Supergirl Being Super number 1. Written by Mariko Tamaki and art and cover by Joelle Jones. This looks really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's a prestige format 4-issue miniseries. It's a coming-of-age tale for the young Kara Zor-El, alias Linda Danvers, or whatever her... They might go with Kara Danvers to line it up with the continuity of the TV series. We can't be sure, but it's a take on Supergirl's early life on Earth that I don't think we've really seen dwelt on very much in past Supergirl comics. So it seems like it might be... It's a sort of poignant and atmospheric and just kind of a fun, gentle read. And we've decided among ourselves that it's going to be this month's off-the-rack pick for DC.
Indeed.
And it is half off cover price. It's only $2.99.
And it's in prestige format, Murd.
Yes, 48 pages, yes. Now, on the next page, 116, this is kind of interesting. Death of Hawkman number 3. It says here, the miniseries formerly known as Hawkman and Adam Strange Out of Time continues as a cosmos shattering Death of Hawkman. That's an odd thing to shift. It's spoilers. I mean, you know.
What I was thinking about was DC just can't do right by Hawkman in the New 52. First of all, they made the unforgivable decision to have Rob Liefeld do it originally, and
one of the dogs of the New 52. Absolutely terrible.
Yes, it was. And I mean, I've always been a big Hawkman fan, and again, I'll go back to reference the let's call it the masterful spotlight on Hawkman. I think it was Peter Rios, Murd and Pants, and Shane, if I remember correctly. One of the all-time great spotlights because you expertly unravel the convoluted history of the character. And I've listened to it several times, and I'm so dismayed to see Hawkman just not getting his due here. It just seems like he's kind of been jettisoned, almost like to a backwater in the new DC universe.
And, of course, that's episode 989 from December. Actually, it was Christmas Eve 2010, a little gift to the listeners of 2010.
Right.
Spotlight on Hawkman and Hawkgirl. 2 people for the price of 1.
Lord Trouser, I know I could count on you with that quick...
Did you just call me Lord Trousers?
I did, sir.
Okay, that's not going to stick. You get that, right? I already have a nickname.
No problem, Slacks. All right.
Viscount Nickers.
This will all be edited out. You guys are crazy.
My little britches. Okay, now.
But I do take your basic point, though, Chris, that this is a vote of no confidence against... it's kind of a shame that they're doing this to Hawkman. But I think similar to the death of the post-Flashpoint Superman in recent months, I think DC's realizing that certain characters they just badly mishandled after the Flashpoint reboot. And they're now just junking them. So they brought in the pre-Flashpoint Superman and Lois. Maybe we'll see an earlier, more familiar, and a more palatable version of Hawkman introduced in the near future.
We'll see. One thing I have to mention on page 117, I've only read the first issue of Dark Knight 3. It's one of the books that's really at the bottom of my pile. I have to catch up on that. On page 128, 129, they're starting their first round of Rebirth trades. Again, I highly recommend Aquaman Volume 1. They've got Batman Volume 1, The Flash Volume 1, Green Arrow Volume 1.
And, of course,
it continues. So, Green Lanterns, Justice League, Nightwing, Superman. So if you want to catch up on Rebirth, this is the way to do it via trades.
And they're all half off at DCBS.
Oh, Murd, Bloodlines.
Yep.
Page 33.
There it is, the complete 6-issue miniseries with art by the aforementioned V. Ken Marion, story by J.T. Krull. So sort of the old 90s alien parasite-created super beings reimagined in the form of a teen's horror flick.
And we did an off the rack earlier in the year addressing the sort of the relaunch of that concept.
Mm-hmm. Yep, the first issue of that miniseries.
Yep. I want to comment on page 134. I'm glad DC continued to reprint the classic Mike Grell Green Arrow series. They're on volume 7 here. And next to that, this is sort of I think these are the replacements for the old Chronicle line of Green Lantern: The Silver Age Omnibus Volume 1. I love the cover designs in these things. If you don't want to spend the $100, don't worry, these are reissued in softcover eventually. And I'm pleased to see this on page 135. This is an excellent series, Checkmate by Greg Rucka. You guys read this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of it.
What did you guys think of it?
Oh, well, I should say I bought most of it.
That means it's on the pile. All right.
Yep, it's still in the offing for me.
No, I remember I liked it very much, yeah.
Yeah, because it takes the... is it Sasha Bordeaux?
Yes.
Yeah, who was originally involved with Batman, and they put her into the intelligence agency Checkmate. It's Greg Rucka doing espionage in the DC universe, so automatically that's really all you need to know. It's excellent. I highly recommend that. Up, Murd, 137, Superman, Batman, Saga of the Super Sons.
Oh, yes, it's Haney-licious. It's collecting a series of backup stories that ran in World's Finest Comics back in the day. And it's the tales of it's what would have been called imaginary stories at that time, but imaginary stories with a continuity unto themselves. Later, they'd be called Elseworlds or alternate future stories, if you will. Positing what would happen if Superman and Batman had sons who took on their fathers' respective mantles and had adventures together as their own sort of me-generation version of the World's Finest duo. And there's a certain nostalgic fondness for the concept. Plus, DC is going to be doing a new Super Sons series eventually with Damian Wayne, the son of Batman, and young... I want to say his name is John Kent. He's the son of the pre-Flashpoint Superman and Lois Lane. So they're kind of playing into that by reprinting the stories that inspired originated the whole Super Sons concept. Written by Bob Haney and Denny O'Neil, with art by Kurt Swan, Dick Dillon, Ernie Chan, and other Bronze Age greats.
Now, Bob Haney is the source of the term Earth H, correct? Correct?
No, Earth B.
Earth B, I'm sorry, Earth B. My apologies. Yeah. Good old Brave and the Bold.
Mm-hmm.
On the same page, this looks lovely. Justice League of America, the Bronze Age Omnibus, issues 77 to 113. $100. Great cover.
At the starting line for the Vertigo section, though, we have this is on page 140, Astro City number 41 by the usual team of Busick and Anderson. This is the 100th comic book.
Oh, wow.
To bear the title Astro City, counting all miniseries and one-shots and so forth. This is the 100th Astro City comic. 40 pages, and Busick's been kind of on a kick where he's been going back and telling the backstories of characters he introduced in some cases nearly 20 years ago, at long last. And in this issue, he gives us the story of the Clark Gable-esque astronaut.
Huh?
A 1940s high-flying hero after whom Astro City, the fictional setting, Astro City, was actually named. So this is a story that's been floating around in the background of the ongoing narrative of Astro City for 20 years, and now the story can finally be told.
I'm ashamed to say I've fallen terribly behind. Astro City is a tremendous comic. I mean, we've often praised Kurt Busiek's his knowledge of just the history of the medium, of the characters, and he just puts all that passion and love into this series. But of course, the best part of it is it's his own creation, so he has complete control over them. He's developing his own universe here, but there's so many loving references to the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze Age. I mean, it often flies under the radar, I think, for some people, but this is consistently, I think, one of the best comics that's been out. Now, it hasn't run every month, of course, but since it... When did it come out, remember? The 1990s, did it?
Yes, it did. It was a six-issue mini from Image originally, and it was, I think, 1995 or 96 when it first came out.
So, thank you. So, I haven't read all of it. I've read much of it. It's never disappointed me. Mert, I know you're a big fan of it as well. So I'm definitely going to pick up this. This is like a standalone, so I'm definitely going to pick this up.
And I love the last sentence here. It says, "This amazing anniversary issue features two covers, one by regular cover artist Alex Ross, and the other by the great Alex Ross."
Which is an homage cover to Alex Ross's own cover to the original Astro City #1.
I have to imagine it might even be without the other one in front of me. It might be like a reprint of it. I don't know.
No, it's not a reprint. No, it's the same composition, but it's definitely a new painting. It features the Samaritan flying overhead a bunch of Astro City superheroes instead of overhead a bunch of normal Astro City civilians.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
That's right. That's right, Mert. Good catch. All right. You guys ready for IDW?
Yep.
Bring it on.
All right, page 154. Again, this is a series I've only read the first volume when we discussed it. I want to read the rest, but Lock and Key, a new one-shot. Called Small World. And I love the first volume, so I'm sure this is going to be captivating as well. But I got to finish the series first before I read this. Mm-hmm. If Shane were here, he'd probably mention on page 159 Revolutionaries #1, where IDW continues to sort of do a mashup of their licensed properties. Action Man, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Rom versus Major Blood and the October Guard. So that sounds fun. Shane, that was for you, brother. And then on page 160, IDW is launching a new G.I. Joe #1. Granted, I've heard the IDW version of G.I. Joe has been very good. I have not been reading it, but If you want to jump in on a new volume, here you go on page 160. Again, I'm really impressed. It's like IDW has really taken up the licensing mantle here. They've really, they got Transformers, G.I. Joe, ROM, Dungeons and Dragons,
My Little Pony.
Yes, My Little Pony. They're really cornering that market. Gem and the Holograms, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Back to the Future. On page 175, Fred Van Lente continues the comic book history of comics, art by Ryan Dunleavy. I bet this is fun. These guys doesn't Van Lente do all those action philosopher books?
Yes, he's the same man. Yes.
Yeah. So this is probably a good read.
Well, we should also point out on page 177 the anthology "Love Is Love."
Oh, okay. Well done, Pants. I totally missed this when I first went through the previews. So this is a comic book tribute to those who were murdered in the Orlando Pulse Club.
Yes.
And DC contributed to this, looks like, as well.
That's correct. All proceeds going to the victims, survivors, and their families via Equity Florida.
I'll be sure to pick this up. They got some heavy hitters on this, too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great cover.
Yep. Phil Jimenez leading the charge.
On page 183, I almost forgot about this. The great Michael Kaluta gets an artist edition of the Starstruck series. Look, I've always loved Kaluta's art since I first saw his work on The Shadow, when DC had the license for that in the early 1970s, working with Denny O'Neil. He's a tremendous artist. I think he's done a lot of storyboard work in movies, too. But this looks beautiful. On page 182, for Jamie D, and also I want to second this, John Byrne's Cold War was a really fun espionage story he wrote during the heyday of the Cold War. It's the entire story collected in a 100-page comic for $8. If you like Byrne and if you like Cold War espionage stories, definitely pick this up. Really fun read.
All right, on to Image.
Yes. Well, the fun thing with Image is always looking at what number ones they have each month and what sort of grabs your attention. 192 looks very interesting. Motor Crush number 1. The team behind the critically acclaimed revamp of Batgirl returns an exciting sci-fi action-adventure series. By day, Domino Swift competes for fame and fortune in a worldwide motorcycle racing league. By night, she cracks heads of rival gangs in brutal bike wars to gain possession of a rare, valuable contraband and engine-boosting machine narcotic known as Crush. I know Danielle was a huge fan of this team's work on Batgirl. So I'm sure she'll have something to say about this book, and I'll be sure to read it as well.
More Babs Jazz.
I've always really liked Cameron Stewart's work.
All right. Following right on Motor Crush's heels, or in its tire treads, as it were, we've got Rockstars number 1. That's on pages 194 and 195. Written by Joe Harris. Art by mega-talented newcomer Megan Hutchison. And I'd be skeptical of that if I couldn't see her mega talent on display in these 4 preview pages on page 195, which look great.
They look fantastic, I agree.
Yep, it's going to be a rock and roll mystery series about a rock journalist who's trying to solve the mysteries of rock and roll. This uncovering, quote, a vast conspiracy involving a legendary band, demonic possession, and sacrifices to the dark gods of rock. The opening arc is called The Davidian Blacklight. Sold, right there.
Just the Blacklight alone for you, Murdy Poo. Murd and I, this is sort of like a runner-up to OTR, so we're going to be talking about this book, too, because I know at least Murd and I are going to read this.
Right. Not an official off-the-rack pick, but...
No, but we're going to talk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful cover, too. My God.
Ooh, boy, is it ever.
Yeah, wow.
And it's half off at DCBS, only $1.99.
Murd, look at her sensitive layout on that first page. They show there on page 195.
Oh, yeah, that is high-quality...
This is very impressive work.
It's
wow.
period authentic collage work there.
Yeah, well put. Yeah, excellent. So I'll definitely be reading that. And with Image, a lot of these books, our ongoing series, many of them we've commented on in the past. Again, Image, I always mention this because I just think it always needs to be noted how wonderfully they're just tapping into every storytelling genre you can think of and putting it in comic book form. I want to mention on page 210, Hadrian's Wall by the team that brought you the Great Cowl series. a noir, science fiction noir. The first issue was fantastic.
I see on page 230 we've got a color reprint of the China Clugston. Well, she was China Clugston Major when she created it, but China Clugston Flores now. But it's a story called Scooter Girl, and it taps into the mod culture of London of decades past. It's kind of a cute sort of manga-inspired love story set in swinging London.
Was there a Silver Age series called Scooter Girl from DC?
There was Swing with Scooter.
Swing with Scooter, that's it.
So their fab and gear version of Archie, I guess.
A couple pages back, Murd, I wanted to mention this. Page 225, they're doing an adaptation of Beowulf. Story Santiago Garcia, art by David Rubin. I mean, those of you who may have read Beowulf in high school or college, I don't know if whether you loved it or dreaded it, but it's a great story, and here you've got a new OGN adaptation of it.
Page 235, there's another edition of the first trade of Phonogram, which is the first collaboration between Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey, who brought you The Wicked and the Divine, and also that Young Avengers run that I enjoyed so much a couple of years ago. So their first experiment with contemporary Brit-pop mythology, the intersection of mysticism and pop music. So it's something I've been meaning to try for some time, and now here's another opportunity to do that.
It's funny you mention that because I remember you guys now raving about that Young Avengers series, which I have yet to read, but I remember you guys really touting it, so to put that on the pile. Should we move on to Marvel, gentlemen?
Sure.
As you wish.
Okay, so I open up and I see Inhumans versus the X-Men. Boy, I didn't see that coming. Let's see, that's by great creators, Charles Soule and Jeff Lemire writing. Leinil Francis Yu is the art. What I find fascinating about this turn of events is that, go back to the 80s and the 90s, how the X-Men were huge. They anchored the Marvel comic book line.
Oh, they certainly did.
And how the mighty have fallen. I mean, they've basically been relegated because, let's face it, because of events in the cinematic universe and the licensing and all that, to this sort of backwater existence. I mean, the characters are still there. You still see them popping up in different stories, but, now they're basically fighting for their existence against the Inhumans.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I guess it's an analogy for them fighting for their existence and just getting attention in general. But what a turn of events. I'll at least try the first issue. Just because of my lingering love, not lingering, but my love for the characters, and also I like the writers they have involved in it. So this gets a little tiresome at times. What else for Marvel, gentlemen?
For me, it's just the few ongoings that, I read the Silver Surfer.
Tremendous.
Sir Mighty Thor's in here somewhere.
Good grief, even Slapstick has a new #1. Pages 16 and 17. I am one of the people who bought his original 4-issue miniseries back in the 90s. Yep, if it weren't $3.99, I'd probably grab it.
Page 10, jumping back a bit, the Mighty Captain Marvel #0. So they're exploring Carol Danvers' struggle to maintain sort of her sense of self as she takes on this world-famous mantle of Captain Marvel. Looks interesting, and I should tell listeners that you can expect in the not-too-distant future, a spotlight, perhaps dealing with that legacy character.
Foreshadowing.
Indeed. Page 13, Hulk #1. This is a focus on Jennifer Walters, though. Now, Paige, I'm looking forward to this. Now, Murd, I'm interested to hear your opinion because I know you don't like the character. So, Hawkeye #1, which is focusing on the Kate Bishop Hawkeye. Kelly Thompson writing, Leonardo Romero art. Now, what's your take on the character?
Never really cared for her.
That says it all. I enjoyed how she was used in the classic Hawkeye miniseries by Fraction and Aja. Her dynamic and sparring with Clint, but I'll give this a try. And let's go to our next off the rack pick.
Okay, pages 18 and 19, a new Nova #1, written by Jeff Loveness and Ramon Perez, art by the same Senor Perez. And it's still Sam Alexander, the recent Nova in the Marvel Universe, but they're teasing the return of a character called Classified. But at the same time as they're teasing it, they're also slyly suggesting that this return might not be all it appears to be. And I think we're all pretty well convinced that Classified is going to be Rich Rider, the original man called Nova from Marvel Comics.
And where is he? What happened to Rich Rider? I forgot, Murd.
So have I, but I kind of think he's been dead.
Okay. Wasn't he hanging out with the Guardians of the Galaxy? Something like that?
At some early point in the reboot of the Marvel Cosmic line, around the time of Annihilation.
Annihilation, right, yeah.
And its sequel, yeah, they had series going at the same time. But I think Rich Rider has since, however temporarily, bit it.
We'll see what happens there.
Yes, we will, because that is our Marvel Off the Rack pick for that month.
Yes, it is.
And it's half off cover price at $1.99.
I find it interesting, looking on pages 20 and 21, Guardians of the Galaxy, that Ben Grimm, is a member of the team, which I knew, but it's just interesting how Marvel is, Fantastic Four are gone. You got to love on page 40 the image of Misty Knight in the classic Captain America pose with the shield. We'll be talking in a future episode about at least the first episode of the Cage series on Netflix. Oh, wait, I got to... All right, page 57. Power Man and Iron Fist, Sweet Christmas Annual #1. Now, damn it, that's the proper way to do a Christmas comic. Got Iron Fist giving Santa Claus a high five while Luke Cage, in a yellow tie, fantastic, is pouring a bag full of money into Santa's children's charity, Salvation Army type receptacle. Great. David Walker's writing it, so I'm in immediately. I'm loving what he's doing on the Power Man and Iron Fist series of Sanford Green. Definitely one of Marvel's best series. I should point out to readers, we'll be talking about on page 59, we'll be discussing soon Jessica Jones #1, the return of the classic Alias team, Bendis and Gaydos, to the character they created. Page 60-61, I'm still enjoying thoroughly Ta-Nehisi Coates' take and Brian Stelfreez's take on Black Panther. Another series. By the way, Pants, you current on Doctor Strange?
No, I am not.
It's another series I just want to recommend to people. The first trade is coming out in softcover. Jason Aaron, who I think is just again one of the writers just firing on all thrusters these days. He's doing a myriad of titles. His own creation, Southern Bastards, which is tremendous. That was an Eisner Award winner, I believe. His Star Wars titles, Thor. Of course, he did Scalped for Vertigo, and then now Doctor Strange. Very reverent to Doctor Strange's history, but still taking a very interesting new direction. Easily one of Marvel's top titles right now, in my view. And they're going to cash in the Doctor Strange movie role because we got Doctor Strange and the Punisher, Magic Bullets 1 of 4 on page 64. You know you've arrived when you get a Punisher team up. Even Archie got one.
Oh, yes. Those were the days.
I got to ask because I'm out of it. What the hell is Gwenpool?
I'm not even sure myself, Chris. I'm guessing it's an alternate reality version of Gwen Stacy that idolizes Deadpool and assumes that identity instead of becoming Spider-Gwen. I'm pretty sure it was just a humorous way for the creators of the Deadpool comic to tap into the very strong success that the Spider-Gwen had.
I see. Very well. Up on page 76, just when you thought he was really dead, it looks like Namor's coming back. No surprise there. And
None whatsoever.
I'd hate to see a classic Golden Age character be kept dead anyway like that, since he's basically one of the founding fathers of the Marvel Universe in terms of the characters. I'm good on floppies unless somebody else has anything they want to talk about here.
Any guesses as to what on page 95 the classified in Star Wars classified number 1 and 2 might be?
No clue, but if after Kieran Gillen's, I think, work of his career on Darth Vader, I'm in for anything he's writing with the Star Wars universe. So
I think I'm with you there.
Sign me up on that.
I suspect it may have something to do with Rogue One.
Oh, that's a good point, Murd. Very good point. I want to mention on, I'm jumping into trades unless somebody wants to, the floppies they want to discuss. I wish this were coming out for Christmas. On page 106, the Star Wars box set slipcase. Looks like a beautiful package. All of Marvel's... some of these were Dark Horse stories, but it's all the film adaptations. And then Force Awakens, Star Wars Volume 1 by Aaron, Darth Vader Volume 1 by Gillen, the Marvel covers. Looks like they've got Leia, Chewbacca, and Lando miniseries. I would totally get this as a gift for somebody, but it's not coming out till April, unfortunately. So,
Good Easter basket stuffer.
that's a good point. That's an expensive Easter basket stuffer. My God, it's $350. Holy mackerel! I didn't realize it was that much money. My God, do they need a Legion omnibus on page 108? I didn't read that, so I can't comment. But it's just such a obscure character.
Not even the most famous stories dealing with that character.
True. I'm looking at not a lot of the trades are jumping out at me this month from Marvel. I get a lot of continuing series. Obviously, Black Panther is great to see in Volume 2. I'm enjoying Sam Wilson's Captain America. I haven't read Totally Awesome Hulk by Greg Pak. Star Wars Volume 4, page 125. That series is basically, I think it's essentially been perfect. I've loved every single issue. I'm thrilled to see that a forthcoming issue will have another Journal of Obi-Wan Kenobi story in it. Which, by God, when are they going to get their act together and make a movie of that? That movie just makes itself. I mean, come on, get Ewan McGregor back. Page 126. I'm really enjoying David Walker's take on Nighthawk. I'm currently reading that series. Brutal. I mean, he's a urban street vigilante, but really well done. Did you guys read a couple years back? It came out as an OGN, Avengers: Endless Wartime on page 127 by Mike McCone, Jason Keith, Warren Ellis. Did you guys read that?
No, I don't think I even knew it had been...
Yeah, if you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's an outstanding graphic novel. One and done. Great pencils by Mike McCone. Warren Ellis is writing a great Avengers story that harkens back to Captain America's past. Excellent. I've enjoyed on page 128, Invincible Iron Man Volume 1 by Bendis. Bendis really gets Tony Stark. I think he captures his voice really well. This series also includes some of the fallout from Secret Wars as Tony finds himself saddled with I'll say, seemingly repentant Victor Von Doom. Really fun. And Mary Jane Watson is there as his new assistant. Good stuff. Pants can attest, Mighty Thor Volume 1 doesn't get much better than this.
Yep. That's good stuff indeed. Absolutely, yeah.
Really good. And Aaron's been guiding the course of Thor now for what, Pants? I'd say 3-4 years?
I think the Marvel Now Thor started in September of 2012. So, over 4 years. Yeah,
it's again, wonderfully harkens back to Thor's history, but again, takes him in new and interesting directions. And, of course, now there's a totally new person as Thor, and they're coming out with a new miniseries where the Odin son is trying to redeem himself. So... Because Pants, they still haven't revealed what he heard in an Original Sin, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, the whisper that caused them to no longer be worthy of Mjolnir.
Right.
So, Murd, page 133, they're continuing to reprint a favorite series of your Heroes for Hire from the 1990s.
Mm-hmm. It was a good run.
Yep. And this is a really fun Hulk run. Page 135, again, the Epic Collection, Future Imperfect. Get that classic two-parter, but also a really fun period from the Hulk's regular titles. Issues 407 and 419, Rick Jones gets married. The Bachelor Party issue is a classic if you haven't read that. Good stuff. And that's when Bruce Banner has control, like has full control of the Hulk intellectually. So, also wanted to point out on pages 136, if you missed Bendis' New Avengers, which I thought was an excellent Avengers run, they're reprinting much of that here, at least the first 10 issues plus the prologue stuff. And then this I thought was great. Page 137, they're giving the really... I think this is a sleeper many people aren't aware of, or they just overlooked it, is the Kazar series from the 80s. Bruce Jones, fantastic artwork by Brett Anderson. I remember getting some of these as a kid. Have you read these guys, the Kazar series from the 80s?
No.
Murd, you should check this out. It's really good, for lack of a better term, jungle action stories. Pun fully intended there. But it's a very smart book. He really goes into like the relationship between Khazar and Shanna. It's just sort of the political dynamics of the Savage Land. You know what, Murd? You're getting this from me as a gift. I'll like to spread the love a little bit when I can.
Yeah. And you know it's appreciated, Chris.
Pants, you see this? Go to the very back of the Marvel previews.
Okay.
They're selling graphic comic boxes.
Mm-hmm.
I just find that interesting. Yeah, it's just as the floppy seems to recede more and more, the interest they're bringing out these comic boxes.
Perhaps they intend it as a kind of... I think they're targeting it to dealers, perhaps, as a way to store their merchandise and also advertise Marvel's merchandise simultaneously.
That makes sense. Anything else from Marvel, my friends?
Nope.
Well, that's... I'm good there.
All right, on to the rest of the book.
Rest of the book it is. Well, we're going to be talking about, in a few months, Terry Moore's newest series, Motor Girl. Number 2 is in this previews. We'll be discussing number 1. I can't wait to read this. Truly one of the great living masters of the medium. Pants, you're still checking out some of the... How's that book from Aftershock about animals becoming sentient?
The second issue was a bit of a letdown from the first issue. Well, the first issue was just tremendous. The second issue had quite a lot of jumps in time, and I was kind of hoping it would be more, slow build to see what happens from day to day, but there was just a lot of quick jumps in there, so it kind of put me off the second issue. I'm going to keep going on with it, but I guess that first issue was set a bar so high.
Interesting.
But, I'm still going to give it a couple more issues, obviously, yeah.
I'll read the trade because I think the concept is fascinating.
But I like on page 258 from Aftershock, the trade of Rough Riders, Volume 1 is out. I've been enjoying this series.
You've been reading it, okay?
Oh,
yeah, definitely try the trade.
I love Pat Olive's artwork.
I love Pat Olive's art too. Yep,
and it's a great story with the historical characters from the early 1900s.
The American Mythology section, pages 266 at Passim. We've got the Pink Panther Cartoon Hour special. 48 pages of old DePatie Freeling characters, not just the Pink Panther himself or even the Inspector, but we've also got the Texas Toads, we've got the Ant and the Aardvark, of course, Mr. Jaw and Catfish, and a few other even more obscure characters from that studio. They're all going to be represented in this extra-sized special.
I'm looking at page 273. I'm so pleased to see they're doing a comic biography. Granted, it's only 32 pages, so I don't know how in-depth it's going to go, but of Alexander Hamilton, who, besides George Washington, is my favorite founding father and easily one of, for me, next to Washington, probably the most important founding father. Sorry, Thomas Jefferson fans. It's all about Hamilton for me, so I'm definitely going to check this out. Such a vital figure in the founding of the Republic on so many levels. Looking forward to that. I just want to point out, again, if Shane were here, he'd mention this. On page 273, they have a great Boba Fett T-shirt in sort of the tradition of the logos for the various Major League sports teams in the United States. I just think it's a great idea. That's a cool shirt. Page 279, so Reggie's getting his own comic, too. And an 80-page giant comic as well.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying what's coming out with the new Archie line, but I never really cared for the character of Reggie, so I'm not sure I'm going to try this. I mean, the first issue, I have to look, probably discounted at DCBS, but I don't know.
Aren't you supposed to not care for him, though? Isn't Reggie a bit of a prick? I mean, isn't that kind of...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Supposed to be the guy you love to hate, but sometimes that formula works a little too well. So yeah, I understand Brian's hesitation. Personally, I just don't like Tom DeFalco as a writer. So
I knew that was going. I wasn't going to say anything, but I knew that was in there somewhere.
No, I went there for us, Brian.
Okay.
I didn't, because Murd and I have a playful disagreement. I tend to like DeFalco, but in some cases more than others. But I didn't even see that. Murd, on page 97, Morse returning to his sort of his origin take on Santa Claus, which I remember he did a story last Christmas era time.
Mm-hmm, so he did.
Yeah, and now he's doing Claus and the Witch of Winter #1.
Well, you can say Klaus. I mean, it's the German spelling, so why not
That's
the Germanic pronunciation? Yep. So it's a 48-page one-shot for $7.99, unless DCB service gives us a break, which it probably will.
I'm extremely excited on page 299. The Killer, this is from Boom, The Killer and Archaic. The Killer Volume 5, written by Mats, illustrated by, I'm going to butcher this, I'm sorry, Giacomon. This is an amazing series. It follows a hitman who just navigating his world and what he does and how he makes a living and how it affects his life. It's easily one of the best sort of crime-related comics I've ever read. I know Brian Deemer was a big fan of this series as well. I am really looking forward to this final installment. Like they have Bendis quoting here, one of the best graphic novel series of the last 10 years. I couldn't agree more. This is outstanding. If you love noir, if you love crime stories, you owe it to yourself. Start with Volume 1 and just follow from there. It's tremendous. The Killer. Oh, Pants, I had to point this out. I know it's listed later on in the book, but they have the full-color ad on page 320. From the Batman 66 TV series, wait for it, a King Tut resin bust.
Ah, boy.
You know you want it.
No, I don't actually.
Well, on page 322 and 323 is our final OTR for this previews. Wonder Woman 77 meets the Bionic Woman #1 of 6. Look at that Alex Ross cover. Writer Andy Mangels, who wrote Wonder Woman 77, which I think we enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Art by Judith Tondora. Alex Ross has one of the covers. There's an action figure variant cover, which looks fun. Looking forward to reading this.
And
I loved Bionic Man and Woman when I was a kid. Main covers half off at DCB Service. Page 326 from DE Dynamite, a new Green Hornet miniseries. Maybe our friend and colleague Matt will check that out. David Liss, very good writer. Again, I'm going to put on page 337, just Warren Ellis is knocking out of the park on the James Bond comic. It is also one of the first books I read in whatever week it comes out. If you're a Bond fan, especially let's say of the Daniel Craig take on James Bond, definitely read this book. This is hardcore, ruthless killer James Bond. It's really well done. Go to page 352, please, gentlemen. You always got to give Fantagraphics props for doing books like this. The Life and Legend of Wallace Wood, Volume 1. A generously illustrated biographical portrait of one of the most mythic figures of American cartooning, overflowing with Wood's art as well as rare personal photos and remembrances by Wood's friends, colleagues, and loved ones. Divided into 2 volumes. This is Volume 1, $40, 232 pages hardcover. Wow. God, he was a tremendous artist. And they do another EC reprint on page 353. The Millionaire Picnic and Other Stories by Will Elder and Al Feldstein with Ray Bradbury. Very important company, Fantagraphics. They always put out great stuff. And on the bottom of that page, 4-Color Fear, Forgotten Horror Comics of the 1950s. Well, look, one other thing I want to point out on page 364 from Hermes Press. Creators of the Superheroes Deluxe softcover. Learn the true story of the creation of most important superheroes in the comics. Discover, quote, gay Superman, of how DC fought to de-sex Lois Lane. The truth about who really created the Joker and Robin, well, we already know that. And the facts behind Spider-Man's creation. Read the original unpublished Superman strips, never before printed. Behind-the-scenes stories about the creation of Batman, and extensive interviews with Will Eisner, and the rarely seen Wonder Man story, and an exhaustive discussion about the Spirit. Wow. I'm going to get that book. That sounds fantastic. Now, the Wonder Man, that's the... I think, was it Fox who printed that, and DC sued out of existence?
Mm-hmm. Victor Fox.
That's right, yep. Yeah, DC was not very tolerant of any care that even remotely resembled their cash cow of Superman. Especially the Captain Marvel character who was outselling them when Fawcett was doing that. Is anybody reading anything from Valiant right now?
I'm looking forward to the Britannia miniseries. I think the first issue of that just arrived.
You took the words right out of my mouth. The first issue was great. As you know, I'm a huge passionate student of ancient Roman history, and this takes place during the reign of the Emperor Nero. The first issue, beautiful artwork. The story was very compelling. I really enjoyed it. And they had a great essay in the back, sort of giving you the background of the Vestal Virgins, who play a key role in the story. And they got someone who knows what he's talking about to write that essay. So Merger, you're really going to enjoy it. Thank you for bringing that up. I wanted to mention that. It's an excellent first issue.
My pleasure.
I'm ready for the rest of the book in terms of the back stuff, unless somebody has any other comics they want to mention from the...
No, I'm good.
Yeah, me too.
I always want to point out, actually, before I forget, I always like to mention Tomorrow's, just because they deserve to be acknowledged for their greatness every month. Let's see what they are producing this month. Again, if the listeners aren't familiar, Tomorrow's publishing the chronicler of the American history of the American comic book between their various publications. Oh, look at this cornucopia of greatness. Back issue 94, this is on page 424, spotlighting indie superheroes. Neil Adams, Miss Mystic, Continuity Comics, Bill Black, Captain Paragon interview, Justice Machine history, Whisper, Mighty Crusaders, Thunder Agents. Great. They've offered again the All-Star Companion. If you're into the All-Stars, the classic Golden Age DC characters, you've got to read that. We praised Comic Book Fever extensively in our previous episode. Wonderful tribute to comics of the mid-Bronze Age into the Copper Age. They're reoffering the John Romita and All That Jazz softcover. John Romita Sr., wonderful retrospective on that master's career. Alter Ego 141 offered again, which focuses on Rich Buckler and Deathlock. Again, Modern Masters Volume 24 on the great Guy Davis, who did Sandman Mystery Theater, among other things. If you are a passionate student, or just a casual fan of the history of these characters, of the companies, the medium itself, you've got these publications are essential reading. I can't recommend them enough. And once again, kudos to George Corey and our loyal listener Eric Nolan Wethington for the wonderful job they did in Comic Book Fever. Everybody who loves comics read it, but especially if you're in your, let's say, early 40s and up, you owe it to yourself to get that book. You will devour it. Looking at the shirts, I like that Moon Knight shirt on page 487. Great image there. Mark Spector in Flight, as it's called. Nice Wonder Woman Heritage T-shirt, Heritage White T-shirt on page 485. Frank Cho's rendition. You know, I've never seen Buckaroo Banzai, I'm ashamed to say.
Join the club.
I know Shane loves it. They have a hoodie here for it on page 486. I got to see this movie.
Well, I have Shane's copy. I was asked to watch it, and I would be happy to loan it to you.
I'd love to, because I know it's an essential cheesy 80s film.
Okay.
Did you like it?
I watched it.
Fair enough. We'll talk about it after I watch it. Immediately, page 494. Look at that Doctor Strange retro shirt. In the mask. Ah! I just picked up at one of my friend John and Paul, one of his local comic shows, their JerseyComicBookShows.com, approaching their 25th anniversary. A vendor had a version of the shirt with Doctor Strange in the mask. I bought it immediately for $5 whopping. Best buy of the day. I'll wear that to the studio next time I'm there. Pants, I know you really wanted to buy on page 518 Harley Quinn's Puddin' Pop.
I beg your pardon?
We'll go to page 518.
Oh, my goodness. Well,
something for everybody.
That's why I don't spend too much time in the back of the book here.
Or you get the Harley Quinn Hula Girl on page 519.
Well, let me go to something that actually I did catch my eye here. I'm going to jump all the way to page 621 from Cryptozoic, the fine folks who brought us the DC Deck Builder game. Batman the Animated Series Almost Got Him card game. I'm going to pull the description off of the website. It's a little more descriptive here. It says, this variant on the popular werewolf-style deduction game, inspired by the memorable Batman the Animated Series episode Almost Got Him, adds a poker element to the proceedings, requiring participants to craft poker hands to activate their special abilities when the lights go out. Take on the personas of classic Batman baddies in a game where everyone has something to hide and no one is safe. I'm into the DC deck builder game. There's another Love Letters Batman game from Cryptozoic. This sounds pretty good. I have to get Bill and Danny's opinion on this game then when I see them there next.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure they'll give it a try. I want to jump back just because it's absurd to page 534. So just to show you how much they're tapping that Deadpool motherlode here. So you've got the Marvel Deadpool Caesar Classic Bust. So on page 534, so you have Deadpool in the style of a ancient Roman, marble bust, complete with the garland around his head. It's just so ludicrous. And then, of course, if you want, you can also add to your collection the Terminator Genesis 1984 Terminator bust for $350, because you want that bare-chested Arnold Schwarzenegger bust for your home or office. Wow, a 10-inch plush. I could get Luke Cage, Iron Fist, or Black Bolt, or Squirrel Girl. I have to tell Bill about that. Gentlemen, I've personally shot my bolt on this previews.
As have I.
Murray, anything else?
No, I don't think so. Like Brian, I don't really look at the back pages that much.
I just find them fascinating because you always think about somebody out there somewhere must want to buy some of this stuff because it's fascinating to me. All righty.
All right, well, who wants to review the off-the-rack choices?
Oh, why don't I? All right, so our choices are Independent, the Bionic Woman, Wonder Woman 77 miniseries #1 from Dynamite Entertainment, co-produced with DC. Okay, from Marvel, it's Nova #1. And from DC, it's the first issue of that Supergirl miniseries, the title of which I will have in just a moment. Supergirl being Super #1, Nova #1, and Bionic Woman, Wonder Woman 77 #1.
And Murd and I will definitely be reading Rockstars. Was that IDW, Murd?
That was Image.
Image, I'm sorry. My apologies. And I think we're also going to be definitely... I'm at least definitely be taking a look at Motor Crush #1 as well. So some exciting new floppies to read here. Looking forward to. All right, Pantaloons.
All right. Well, once again, this episode is brought to you by Discount Comic Book Service. You can go to dcbservice.com for all your pre-ordering needs.
And
if you want to leave us a voicemail, the number is 267-702-6642. You can send us an email. We're comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. You can join the conversation on thecomicforums.vanillaforums.com and talk back about this episode, as well as many other topics, thecomicforums.com. You can follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, we're Comic Geek Speak. We want to thank everyone who has contributed to the show. We really appreciate it. Could not do without you. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.
You got it on Wednesday, and you was talking about it, going to the volume up. These guys will talk about it, everything that geeks love. From cakes to laser beams, opinions like the seasons on every